the Onyx Pathcast. I am Matthew Dawkins, and I am joined today by Dixie Cochran.
Hello.
But no Eddie Webb.
Nope. He's not here right now.
Well, you know, it's only fair. Last week, Dixie wasn't with us. This week, Eddie isn't with us. Next week, who knows who won't be here? It's a mystery. It's a carousel. It might be me. It may be someone else. Or we could be fully staffed.
Is there like a mystery fourth person that might not be here? Or just hasn't been here this whole time? Maybe
there's always been a fourth person, yeah.
Oh.
The silent partner. The editor.
Oh no. This is getting sinister.
Yeah, you know, I always like those sort of shows where you have a mysterious individual with a name like the curator.
Right.
Or the librarian and the editor. And what does he do? He edits years out of your life, which is what the Pathcast does for us.
No, I love doing the Pathcast. Don't say that.
Years.
There was a meme a while back that was like a Doctor Who type meme that said that your job was your like doctor title. Like instead of being the doctor, you were whatever your job was. And I was like, I could be the editor. But I sound like a villain.
What am I then? Because I seem to do quite a lot.
I'm assuming you're the just call you the creator.
You know what? The gentleman works, and I like the gentleman in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was going to say now you're a terrifying Buffy villain.
Yeah. Probably the best visually. It's obviously widely regarded, that episode Hush of Buffy.
Usually listed as the best episode of the show.
Which is, it only has a tiny connection to the grander arc, doesn't it? It's at the very end, if I recall.
Yeah, it's not really big over the arc of that season, but also the arc of that season is kind of bland compared to some of the standalone stuff in that season. Like, the Halloween episode is really good, but it doesn't really connect as much to the other stuff either, so...
Yeah, it's a Riley season, if I recall.
It is the Riley season, and it should have been good, you know?
Yeah.
Nice guy, attractive, good actor, has a secret, all kinds of stuff, but it just didn't work.
Well, I remember they had a similar issue with Smallville when they introduced, what's his name from Supernatural.
I did not watch Smallville, so I don't know who was on it.
So you've watched Supernatural, haven't you?
I've seen the first 33 seasons out of 63. I don't know.
Well, of the two brothers, the one with the less floppy hair,
Dean.
Dean. Okay, I don't know Supernatural at all well, but he was introduced as a rival to Clark Kent as a love interest for Lana Lang, and there seemed to be a new one of these pretty much every season. It was very paint by numbers at points with Smallville, especially early on. And again, he was someone with a mysterious past, military background. Oh God, he was Riley, basically. But he had a weird mother obsession. If I recall, his mother was played by Jane Seymour, not the wife of Henry VIII. And
so like a Norman Bates mother obsession, or just like a vaguely sad mother obsession?
I'm testing my memory now, and I applaud anyone who's listening to this insane ramble. I believe his mother was a witch, and she was commanding him to do various things, but he had some kind of governmental contacts, like he was CIA or something like that.
So he was Riley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that's a lot. This has nothing to do... Actually, this does kind of have something to do with what we're talking about today. Speaking of shadowy government things that control you somehow, because we are interviewing Eric Zawadski, developer of Deviant and the Renegades, which is kind of what that game's all about. So, weird. We accidentally made a connection.
What a fantastically unintentional segue we have created. Okay, well, before we spoil it, let's move on to the interview for which I am not present with the wonderful Eric Zawadski.
Welcome back. I'm still here with Dixie Cochran.
Hello.
And with us today, we have Eric Zawadski. He's one of the co-developers for Deviant the Renegades. He's also done some work for us on some of our anthologies. He's done a ton of work on Demon to Descent. And so we thought as Deviant has been starting to kind of move forward, we should good time kind of check in and talk with him and also just kind of get to know him better because that's the first time we have spoken. So thank you for coming on, Eric.
Thank you for having me.
And so generally we kind of like to start with kind of an overview of your career. So tell us kind of like how you got into being a creative professional, how you got into working with Onyx Path, that kind of stuff.
Gosh, I think I started making role-playing games when I was in middle school. So it's I finally got a chance to do it and get paid for it. Not until my 20s. I did a little bit of work on Paranoia when they briefly called it Paranoia XP.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, but it was something that it just sort of fell in my lap because I wrote a silly online thing and it came to the attention of the developer, and they invited me to do some work on that. Then I ended up doing, I think, probably about a good 200,000 words over the years, mage predominantly, then a whole bunch of demon. So I think I've probably... my name is on more demon books than probably any other single writers. I'm certainly in the top 3.
Oh, wow.
I've done a lot of them.
What is interesting too, now that I have you on Deviant for me, is that the first project I ever did for Onyx Path was something that you worked on. So you've been with me since the beginning, Eric.
I just didn't know it.
Yeah, because my first ever editing job was the Demon Translation Guide back in 2015.
Oh, right. Wow, okay.
Yeah. So you did all that stuff, and you've done other things since, too. You worked on Werewolf, I think, at one point?
I did like a couple things for Werewolf. I've done a little bit of Beast. I've done a couple pinch hits on stuff like that because they know that, that I can hit a deadline. It makes me an attractive person every once in a while, especially when someone has to back out abruptly. It happens.
Right.
But then you don't want the whole project to slip, so you do need someone who can produce something relatively quickly.
Oh yeah, we all know
and
that
cleanly,
feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and you were originally a writer on Deviant, but now you're helping Dave Brookshaw with co-developing Deviant, right?
The way that sort of happened is he originally pitched it as he was going to have me help with Overflow on the Kickstarter. So I was going to be a co-developer after the core book was out. And help with some of the supplements as they came out and maybe eventually hand it off. As time went on, it became a little bit more something where he wanted to sort of back off on trying to do multiple lines because he was just getting overburdened.
Right.
And so my role became larger. And so I'm basically the developer going forward. He helped he basically wrote the Bible, came up with a lot of the ideas. And when Dave writes a Bible, it pretty much lives up to its name as far as thick. He's very, very detail-oriented. And it in some ways makes it very, very easy to write a game for him because you know exactly what he wants. And so it's just a matter of getting it to be actually producing the material for it.
If I remember, the Bible is like 30-plus pages or something, right?
It's pretty lengthy. I can't remember the length. So last time I looked at the page number, I usually am just searching for individual things.
Sure, fair.
He does think about these very hard, I just grabbed some of the cool power stuff right away because I hadn't gotten a chance to do that on a game line yet. I've done a lot of bits here and there, but it was really fun to have an opportunity on a core book to play with the variations and to think about how they interact with each other and how they interact with scars. And that was a very fun thing for me to do.
Yeah, like we'll get more into Deviant in a minute because I definitely want to talk a bit about it. A lot of folks haven't had too much of a preview of it yet. I've said, I've got to play it at Midwinter, which was super fun. So we can talk about that too. But I was going to say, the process on Deviant has been very similar to the process that we've talked about before on the podcast with Beckett's Jihad Diary, where you had one developer
Right.
that kind of steered the direction, wrote the outline, contracted the writers, like did a lot of that front end work, and then handed it off to somebody else to do all of the cleaning up back end work. So we're doing the same thing with Deviant, where like Dave kind of shepherded it through its first drafts and everything, and then Eric and Dave did red lines together, and now it is Eric's baby going forward. So it's gonna be really cool. You can do a lot of cool things with that game.
Yeah, and actually, since we're kind of digging into Deviant right now, Eric, for people who either have been following along or it's been a minute, could you guys give the high view of what Deviant is about?
Deviant is about people who have been changed by their encounter with the supernatural, because, more specifically, and usually by an organization who wants to harness the supernatural and do something with that. And they basically experiment on people, or they expose them to something and just to see what happens. But the conspiracies, which are what these organizations are interested in controlling the people who gain these powers. They're interested in making more of them, and the process of making a deviant is fraught with failure, often fatal failure. So you have opportunity for sort of survivor stories where it's like, I knew people who didn't survive this event. I remember, Dixie, when you were playing that the play test at Midwinter, when I was looking at those characters and designing their sort of backstories, they're a paragraph long. They're super short because it's just a one shot.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, okay, what is it that this person lost by being changed by these people?
Yeah,
and
I think
it was
that,
like
my character had her husband and kid killed.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
wow.
it's like, okay, we're gonna kidnap all of this whole family because we think all of them have the stuff that will make them good deviants, so that we can actually get them to undergo the divergence successfully. But there's a chance that some of them will die, and in fact, all of them died except for the one, and now she's irritated at that. Or you have someone who was just loved going to the beach, and that's her passion. It's just her free time thing, but that's her passion. Is changed and transformed, and now can't go out in the sun because it burns her skin. You lose something when you become a deviant, and so these people are all people who have lost something, and sometimes it's a loss of control. There are three very broad categories of powers or scars, or variations on scars. There's involuntary, controlled, and persistent. Involuntary means they work without your leave. They aren't really fully in your control. So that it's a sort of body horror, a sort of a supernatural body horror.
Okay.
You encounter a particular thing, and now all of a sudden your telekinetic powers go all over the place, and they start hurting people, or they do things that you don't want them to do.
Yeah, the example for that from our playtest was the nun character, who, if she got into like any kind of conflict, like verbal argument, whatever, she turned into like a giant hulking beast, like a size 10, like clawed hands, terrifying monster. So like she couldn't get into like heated discussions even sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And controlled is more about the cost. It drains your resources. It may weaken you physically. It may cause you to mutate further. It might cause you to forget everything you did while you were using your powers. So you go back and you're like, okay, there's a gap in my memory where I apparently set a building on fire. I probably had a reason to do it, but I don't know what that reason was. So that's this sort of a little bit more the horror of, or the fear of, these people are after me, and when the chips are down, I might not be able to fight back. Right. I might be too tired. I might not be able to get my powers to work. So it's that kind of a fear or horror. And then there's the persistent, which is all about the permanent changes. Your powers work fine, but the downside is that you now can't go in the sun, or you are horribly ill all the time and can't, walk up a flight of stairs without losing your breath and being unable to go anywhere for a while. Or you have like extra fingers, or there's all sorts of, there's something that has been changed about you that is noticeable, even if only to you, and you can't get rid of it. So Deviant is about that separation, that loss of self, becoming, the lifelong vegetarian who now can't abide eating anything but raw meat. It's a loss of something that is very personal to you. And you're constantly being chased by people who want you to use your powers for them. And sometimes it's just obviously like malevolent. They want you to be they're super soldiers. So they kidnap you and they like put you on these impossible missions and make you use your powers to kill people. But sometimes it can be like on its face altruistic, but it's a mandatory altruism. And one of the effects that sometimes happens is, okay, for example, there is a very powerful, like the top end healing ability that allows you to cause miraculous healing on someone. And it works okay once per story you can do this thing. But if you do it more than that, you start racking up instability, which makes it so that you're eventually going to mutate beyond your ability to stay alive.
Wow.
That doesn't mean, so you're a miracle worker, but you are a miracle worker who, if you don't practice self-cure, you will kill yourself, literally.
Right.
So even if it's kind of benign, hey, you could do a lot of good in a cancer ward. Yeah, I can do a lot of good in a cancer ward, but if I use this too much, I'll be used up, literally used up.
Right. Yeah. So there are like major drawbacks for using some of the better powers, which is something that we didn't see as much in the playtest, as I talked about a little bit before, where like some of the powers we were kind of looking at, I'm like, this seems really overpowered, and then Megan was sitting there going like, no. If you actually had the full rule set, you would understand that like the way that this person is using their power is not the way you could actually use it in a game, because he couldn't have used this power 5 times in like a 3-hour period.
Yeah, instability is one of those caps or limiters. Is there's all sorts of stuff that will cause you to. It's kind of like a damage track, like your damage to clarity or your. I'm trying to think of which other ones have that sort of a damage track now. I think does Geist have that now?
I think so. For your psyche.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know.
But
all my games are mixed up in my head. There's way too many games to remember.
Yes, there are.
But the idea of it's sort of a damage track, but as the damage track gets on to, if it gets to, fills up with all aggravated damage, in this case major instability, it kills you. You get to the point where you cannot physically support the power that is within you, and you die. And so there's that risk with powers. There's also the fact that, again, people want you to use your powers to benefit them. Now, that can and often is the group that made you. Remember, these are the folks that are okay with some routine failures that may result in the death of the experiments.
Yeah,
death of the experiment test subjects.
I almost always think of the first half hour, or the first hour, or whatever, of the first Deadpool movie when you talk about.
Yes. That. Oh my gosh, that is such a that's a picture perfect example of a divergence of a conspiracy.
Yep.
Triggering the divergence. Or River Tam.
In Firefly.
Firefly, yeah.
Yeah, in Firefly.
And Captain America's origin, experiment with it.
And Captain America's is comparatively benign.
Sure, right.
But let's look at, but even, again, this conspiracy is hunting you and is watching for signs that you're around so that they can bring you in and make you use your powers on for their benefit. Mm-hmm. And again, even if it is kind of benign, no one is ever going to leave the Hulk alone.
Right.
I mean, they have to watch him because they know that he's dangerous.
Right.
They know he's dangerous. So even the quote nice conspiracy of S.H.I.E.L.D. Is doing some questionable stuff, and is not going to let you just wander on your own without monitoring you. And once if there is an alien invasion, they sure are going to make the Hulk show up to fight the aliens. Whether Hulk wants to fight the aliens or not is irrelevant to them. Like I said, that's as nice as a conspiracy gets.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a nice cycle there of you don't want to use your powers too much because it will kill you, but there's always an external force that pushes you to try to use your powers in ways that will probably kill you.
Yes, and the thing is, it's not like every power is immediately fatal, but or even like prone to instability, but. It is something you always have to think about is, am I attracting attention to myself that is going to make it so that I have to use my powers to a point where either I can't escape. I mean, am I powerful enough to avoid this conspiracy? Or if I avoid this conspiracy, what's the price going to be in terms of not just my instability, but my friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
Because a group that is okay with, acceptable losses on the experimental wing of the laboratory is probably okay with the acceptable losses of murdering your friends or kidnapping your family.
Right, to force you into doing their bidding or what have you.
Yeah. And so another element of this, and it's a pretty important one, is the idea of if you're a renegade, which is the deviants that have decided that they do not want to work for the conspiracies or any of the conspiracies, is fighting back. You got to get them to stop fighting, stop chasing you. And the only way they're ever going to stop chasing you is if you basically shut them down. We look at the end of Orphan Black, and basically all of that conspiracy is completely wiped out by the end of the series.
Spoilers for Orphan Black.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's been several years. I think we're fine.
Yeah, well, but yeah, that's one. So you're always trying to write. So the way you have to deal with this is you have to fight back and eliminate them or disable their ability to continue to pursue you.
Yeah. And
so that's the revenge side of things, and vengeance definitely enters into it because the conviction versus loyalty dynamic. Conviction is them what you want to kill or destroy, and loyalty is them what you want to protect. Sometimes to a bit of a codependent relationship level of obsession.
Right.
And renegades are prone to conviction. So they are if they don't maintain, aren't constantly pursuing their conviction or protecting their loyalty, that's the quickest way to lose stability, to gain instability and ultimately die. So they have to get revenge. They have to attack the conspiracy. They have to fight back. It is essential to their psychological balance, such as it is. Right.
I mean, that's super cool. I remember one of my favorite things we were first talking about, when I first came on and was talking to you and Dave about Deviant, was the giant list of people that he wanted you to be able to make in Deviant.
Yeah.
Because what I always say about it, what I keep saying about it whenever we talk Deviant, either on here or just in person at cons, is that I love the scope of it. I love the fact that the 4 characters we had at the table at Midwinter were completely different characters. None of them were a thing alike. And then if you look at this list that he made forever ago, it's got stuff from Alex Mack, Buffy, to Enchantress from DC Comics, to River Tam, to Max from Videodrome, to Mr. Toombs from the X-Files. These are all very different characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tetsuo from Akira. So there's a million different characters. And then I know that you added in things like Deadpool and Winter Soldier and stuff. But yeah, you can do so much with this game. And to me, that's really cool because a lot of games just in general are all a little bit more narrow when it comes to kind of what you're playing, especially supernatural games. Quite a lot of them tend to be okay, you're all shapeshifters, you're all vampires, you're all whatever. And this game is very much you're all deviants, technically, you're all remade, but how you're remade can be so vastly different from one person to the next that you can really kind of stretch your wings a lot in terms of what your power set does and what your character is.
And I think one of the things I also liked, because there's such a broad scope, is it pulls a page to a degree from Geist in the sense that you make your own conspiracy, right, when you're making your character?
Your characters have a significant impact on exactly the scope of that conspiracy.
Right.
In fact, when you start out, there's a range of magnitude is the measure of power for both scars and variations. When you have variations, you have to have balancing numbers of scars, and I'm not going to get too much more detail than that. But there's a certain balance you have to strike between those. But one of the elements is that you can start out with 2 magnitude of variations when the game goes. If you have 2 magnitude of variations, you're talking about a very gritty game where you just have a couple little powers, or one kind of little one, but not as small. You might be able to be invisible or stick your hand through a steel plate, or not your whole body, mind you, but just your hand through a steel plate. And so you can do some cool stuff, but you don't have a huge range of power going on. And so the conspiracy you're up against isn't going to be nearly the level of some world-spanning and just really difficult to deal with opponent. And so the stats of the conspiracy are going to be lower. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can go anywhere up to 15 magnitude dots of variations as a starting character. That's going to be kind of appalling how nasty the conspiracy is going to be to correspond with that. Because believe me, at 15 dots of variations as a starting character is kind of a lot.
Right.
I could build some pretty respectable characters with that.
Right. But on the flip side, you have pissed off basically Amazon.
Yes. Amazon backed up by a worldwide mafia.
Wow.
No. So
Amazon.
But in any case, yes, you piss off Amazon, and to make things even more interesting is there's this idea of the web of pain, which is that all these conspiracies are linked to each other, and to other to different conspiracies, and sometimes it's like the evil, not like the university research program that very quietly makes deviants of their graduate students once in a while, also provides the talent. Basically, the people who help with this program to make deviants, who are graduate students, may get a letter of recommendation to this HR company in another part of the country that specializes in basically deviant slave labor, forcing deviants to do their bidding, or to work for companies and do various things. Mm-hmm. And so these are connected. Now, so if you're fighting the university might be a small little conspiracy. So it's probably, you might be able to take that down in a story or two. But if you disrupt them, you've disrupted the supply line of talent for this HR company on the other side of the country. Nice. That now is like, okay, these guys are a threat and an opportunity. And so now you're hunted by an even bigger conspiracy. So yeah, you can start out with more dots of variations, and your starting conspiracy is going to be equally awful based on that. Or you can start out with a relatively little one, and then as you get more powerful, the conspiracy that's chasing you now is bigger.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, it's almost like the tiered play of Hunter almost, where you can pick a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 game. And it sounds like, putting 2 or 3 dots into your character for variations is a tier 1 game. And then, using 12 to 15 is essentially a tier 3 game. And you're just going to be fighting bigger and badder bad guys. And
the Midwinter characters were, I think, 7s.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, they're solid. You can do a lot with them. I designed the characters so that their powers interacted well with each other. Mm-hmm. It was very easy to work together. The teleporter could work together with the person who could body swap. Yep. And to sneak their hair in places.
We did that.
I mean, I know. One of my groups did too. Did something similar. For them, it was gum. They had her chew a bunch of gum. They emptied the gumball machine.
Nice.
And that's how they got their D&D her DNA everywhere.
D&D everywhere.
D&D everywhere.
DNA everywhere by sticking gum in various places all over the oligarchs.
I'm not that smart, apparently. I didn't do that. I said hair. But yeah, so the way that my teleportation worked for my character was that I had to have my DNA there on some level, even if it was just skin flakes. So I had to have been there in some way. Or if someone else, like we said, put my DNA somewhere, I could teleport there later.
That's actually a nice way of doing the whole you have to visit the place first teleportation limitation.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and we, as Eric said, we had somebody who could jump into other people's bodies. He was knocked out while that was happening. But he could jump into a guard's body and just wander around, dropping pieces of my hair everywhere for a few minutes.
Nice.
So yeah, that was cool.
Actually, one question I did have, is the assumption then that everyone's playing at roughly the same level, or can mixed play happen? So I can have one person with 10 dots and one person with 2 dots in the same group.
If you want to do that, I think you can, but I don't know that would be my first suggestion. Mm-hmm. It's certainly possible to have multiple conspiracies, because let's say you have people who are made by different conspiracies. They may each have their own conspiracy linked to them. So yeah, being chased by 5 little conspiracies is about as much fun as being chased by one big one, right?
Right.
But and their mechanics for conspiracies take into account the fact that in some games or some chronicles you're going to have everyone being part of being chased by the same conspiracy at the beginning, and in others there's going to be some mix and match, or everyone's going to have a different one.
Right.
But I think that as far as the number of starting dots, I think I'd hesitate to put a 2-dot player in a character in the same game as a 10-dot as a starter. I think, you could do it if you really want to do it narratively.
But you're assuming a smaller spread between those otherwise.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a smaller spread generally.
Like within 3 or 4 dots of each other, maybe? Like you play 6 to 10s or 6 to 9s or something like that?
I think you could do that if you wanted to do that. I like I said, I myself know my group would prefer to have everyone on the same page. We're going to go, okay, all of us are agreeing we're going to play a gritty game. We're all going to play 2s.
Right.
Or we want to play this ridiculous. We want to fight Amazon backed by the mob. So we're going to play 15s to start out with, or we're somewhere in between. So everyone has to be on the same page as to exactly what level of power you're going to. And I think that's honestly a realistic discussion to have in any role-playing game when you're starting
that's a really
out.
common thing to do in most games.
Yeah.
Figure out what you want to do.
But I do like the fact that it's not on just the storyteller to make that decision. The players can go. The storyteller could say, "I want to run, something akin to say." Netflix Daredevil, so keep it to 2 to 3. Or the storyteller could say, I want to run Deviant. I'm up to what you guys want to do. And the players can then discuss and decide, actually, you know what? I think we really feel like we want to play 7s, or we want to play 3s, or we want to play 10s. It allows them to have a meaningful conversation about power level, and also to opt into a certain level of play. Because, like you said, the danger of 5 conspiracies versus 1 big conspiracy may be roughly equivalent, but there is a different tonal thing between 5 different groups that maybe are competing or loosely connected, fighting over you, versus one totalitarian organization coming after you. There's different tones and styles there, but it sounds like this is a very clever way that you can then kind of have that conversation at the table before you start without having to. It's very concrete, which is sometimes very hard to have these kinds of discussions when you're playing a game.
Right.
I know that when Dixie, you were talking on a podcast about the Midwinter game, and one of the things you brought up is, this Deviant is not a superhero game, but I think we can learn a lot of lessons about how to think about the power level issue from the flaws of superhero games that have come before. And one of the big ones is this classic story of, one person shows up wanting to play, I guess Daredevil or some other relatively low-powered character, and then someone else wants to come in playing, the Silver Surfer, and if you let everyone play whatever they want without discussing in advance, you have this nightmare of nobody is actually having fun because no one has the game they want. Either you're useless because you're too weak, or you're bored because everything else is too weak. And so by having these sort of almost forced discussion at the beginning of how much magnitude do you want to start with? You are allowing players to come to a consensus on what power level they want to bring to the beginning of the game, and so they can make that decision, and that way it's a consistent experience.
No, I think that's fantastic. I am also trying to think of non-superhero examples, and there actually aren't many, but the first one that came to mind was something like Stranger Things, where Stranger Things is basically one deviant inside of a group of normal characters.
Buffy too, until they all get powers later, but the first 2-3 seasons of Buffy, it's pretty much Buffy, and then possibly a vampire, and then a bunch of teenagers.
Right, and so that spread is kind of small between baseline humanity and the powered character. But then you're right, to use Buffy's example, once everyone gets characters, then everyone kind of starts to slowly float up, but they still are staying within that bracket. Whole bracket floats power-wise. And it does seem like the consequences of such, the big bads, as you were from Buffy, do get increasingly more powerful, so that the antagonists are scaling with the players.
Well, because season 1 it's a really old vampire, and season 5 it's an actual god. So
bit of a difference between those two.
Yeah.
And then the series still has 2 more seasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? Well, turns out,
Yep. Yeah. And then Angel. I wish to do more violence. Okay.
But that actually that does kind of lead to a discussion about tone, because I mean, you mentioned that this is not a superhero game, but we can learn from that. So how would you describe the tone of the game? I mean, is there a distinct thing you're kind of shooting for, or is it so broad that people can play a lot of different styles inside of it?
I think there's a lot of flexibility, but the sort of focus is on that sort of that disconnection, the change that happens to you, because when you're looking at other Chronicles of Darkness games, and we talked about earlier about how all of them have they're all vampires of some kind, or they're all wizards of some kind, and even though they may have some variations, they have some core abilities that are unique to. Are constant in that particular splat,
right.
as people call it. In Deviant, your one thing that is the same for everyone is that all of you are broken. All of you have these scars that mess with your life in one way or another. And all of you have to worry about being hunted. And all of you have to worry about instability. And you have to deal with instability. So you're driven by revenge. You're driven to protect the people you care about in a way that is can be relatively okay. Like you could have a normal relationship with your loyalty touchstone. But when your psychological profile and your survival depends on you having that friend and that friend being trustworthy and never betraying you, it tends to get a little creepy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's less your sidekick in an anime and more that your love for the anime sidekick, and more of the love of the Phantom of the Opera for Christine.
Oh, okay.
Or the
That's
Beast
creepy.
for Belle. It's not this pure kind love, because they are so needy that they can't not have people to care about, and they can't have people they want to destroy. When you was talking earlier about if you have power that's really, really good, but it costs you instability to gain. Mm-hmm. Medium instability, one of the ways to resolve that, the most common way to resolve that, is you have to destroy a conviction touchstone. You have to find and kill someone. That's how you get clear out that medium instability. Wow. So if you do something that is the miracle, get the cancer patient off the bed and let them walk out of the ward forever, and you are using that more than once a story, you can do that, but you are literally going to have to kill someone every single time you do that, or you're going to go mad.
Yikes. Okay.
In my brain, when you were mentioning the tones a minute ago, it sounded kind of similar to Change the Lost, obviously, because a lot of similar themes as far as being taken against your will, being hunted. But I'm like, man, these are really angry changelings.
It's funny. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Much angrier.
There's a thread of fury and anger and frustration running through this game that you just don't see in many of the other Chronicles of Darkness games.
No, because again, it's hardwired. A mage has mage sight. That's a cool thing. I mean, it has a downside, but it's also really cool. A vampire has all of the benefits of being dead, and there's some downside to that too, but they also have the benefits. A deviant is a rage machine with problems. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that can change that ever. And so there's going to be a tone there. I mean, even without the conspiracies constantly chasing you, it's a little bit like, you remember Memento?
Yep.
When you get to the end of it, now we're spoiling Memento. I hope that's okay with everyone.
We also spoiled
but when you get to
Buffy
the end of it, you find out that this guy had a need for revenge. He got his revenge, but he couldn't remember taking revenge, so there was no psychological satisfaction in that revenge. So he had to manufacture another person to kill so that he could continue to have that drive to get revenge, and that which gave meaning to his life. Mm-hmm. And deviants are in the same boat. If you kill a conviction touchstone, that need to hurt someone doesn't go away. You're just looking for a new victim. Right. So it's a pretty dark game. It's like I said, it's not a superhero game. Even if some of the powers look a little bit like, you can fly, or you can heal fast. Yeah, great. but you're a rage machine and you demand blood.
Yeah.
is kind of a hard dynamic to avoid.
So the conviction touchdowns that you are driven to take out, who do those tend to be in the game? Because I know that like currently it sounds probably some people are sitting here like this game's a little serial killery, which I don't think is the actual point. So because usually the conviction touchdowns would be people like from the conspiracies and stuff, correct? Or like people that you perceive to be a villain, whether or not they are actually a villain. People that from your character's perception are a bad guy that needs to be taken out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, most of the time it's going to be someone in the conspiracy. Hey, they volunteered themselves. They're already hunting you. But yeah, specific people in a conspiracy that are out to get you or who have already wronged you.
Yeah.
Progenitor is a classic, but once you destroy the person who made you, where do you go from there? You're going to have to do something.
Yeah, you go to like their assistants, you go to their people that funded them, like all kinds of things.
Yeah. Again, that's the web of pain is all over there, so it's just a matter of finding another conspiracy to fight.
Now, can your conviction touchdowns be something outside of the conspiracy? Like, could it just be like a dirty cop or something? Like someone that you think is just a bad person, like in a Batman vigilante way?
In fact, it can be someone who used to be your friend who betrayed you. And in fact, it's really easy, like mechanically and in terms of really, really easy to switch from a loyalty touchstone to a conviction. Mm-hmm. If someone is loyalty touchstone, but they betray you and you feel as a player that betrayal is enough, you can flip them to a conviction touchstone immediately.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Without an interim step. Again, Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
The Beast. These other characters who have kind of creepy relationships with the people they're obsessed with. And they don't take betrayal well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Phantom's definitely one of those things that you like grow up as a young, like I'm a musical theater buff, as a lot of our listeners probably know. And like, you grow up and you're like, oh, it's so sweet. Da, da, da. Then you get like a little older and you're like, he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Like he's a creepy bad person. I mean, he was mistreated too. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but like, he's not a good person at all.
Yeah. Just not a very positive, healthy relationships. And
and again, I mean, it's one of the things that I find fascinating about the concept of Deviant is because it's an exploration. The game incentivizes you to find problems and hurt them very badly. And this is a common trope, but also I think modern day is very satisfying, or at least poignant in the sense of you want to just find problems and punch them. The shoot you punch Nazis argument that always happens. But also the game says that's not a sustainable solution. It's satisfying in the moments, but then there's always going to be another problem that you have to either do that same thing again or even worse violence to.
Yeah. I know that from proof of concept to now, it's changed obviously, but I know that when this game was first kind of mentioned, and even like in some of the earlier drafts, it's very much been like this is the anarchist punk rock fuck you game, like this is the angry game, way more so than I think most of our other games. Like it's definitely like Eric was saying, this is the anger game for Chronicles, which is awesome, and it's a really cool tone considering that a lot of our games focus more on the noir or on the aspect of losing parts of yourself, like in Lost, or the trauma you suffered. And this one's like, you suffered trauma and you're pissed about it. And like, you can play that angle in some of the other games, I mean, obviously you can play an angry character in just about any game, especially things like Geist, where you come back for a reason. You can be a revenge-driven Geist. You can be angry and Changeling. But this one kind of just assumes that everyone is that character. Like, everyone's
right, and exactly. I think there's a nice contrast to, like, say, Changeling you mentioned earlier, because at the end of the day, it's like, the true Fae screwed you over. You can be mad at them, but what are you really going to do functionally against a true Fae? There's not a lot you could do.
Right.
Or the
right,
God machine.
But
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to punch the God machine. Okay, you fail. But I mean, in this case, it's like there's a lack of a better term, a human face on your problem. And so it's something that you can theoretically engage with and destroy. So it's interesting. Like you said, it's very punk in the sense of the lead up to it is very punk, but then also the afterward of like, okay, was that a good thing? And you can dig it. Sounds like you can probably dig into that as much or as little as you want, but I'm just excited by the fact that there's this thread of rebellion and anger and outrage, and degree of moral outrage that is baked in, as opposed to, like Dixie said, something you kind of opt into for each of the other games.
Right.
So as we're kind of getting close to wrapping things up, before the show, you were talking about how this is your chance to kind of talk about this because your family are perhaps not as sympathetic to you talking to them about the game.
They're less sympathetic by the day, shall we say.
So what's the one thing that you really want people to know about Deviant that you really, really love and really want to talk about?
Oh my goodness.
2 or 3 things, if you can't narrow it down to one.
I was going to say, Eddie, you just extended the podcast by 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's bad.
I'm going to put my headphones down and walk away while Eric just talks into the microphone for the next 2 or 3
I don't know.
hours.
I feel like I've talked a lot about a lot of the things that I'm pretty passionate about. You can feel. I'm sure you can feel the excitement
absolutely.
in my voice over this. I had a lot of fun when Dave originally pitched this. He's like, "Yeah, you're going to do some. I'd like you to do the Kickstarter extensions and so just do the developing for that, but." Because you're going to be a co-developer, I would like you to pick what thing you want to write. I'm going to do variations. I want to do all of them because I want to make sure that they're as close to having some balance between the levels as possible. Because it's so easy when you have a lot of different hands in any given set of powers for there to be a lot of unevenness. And again, talking about lessons learned from superhero games that went badly. Looking at, trying not to make some of those same mistakes where this thing, technically it's 1 through 5 and this other one is 1 through 5, but the 3 on this one is a whole lot better than the 3 on this other one. You're always going to have something that this is really too powerful at my table, or I don't like this one. None of my players like this particular power at my table. But at least the goal is for scars to have some balance. For variations to have some balance, because the game's engine runs off of that balance.
Right.
At least mechanically in terms of the powers. I love the themes. I love playing with the concepts of instability and conviction and loyalty. And I could go on and on about all that stuff too. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to make the powers fun. My design philosophy in general when looking at cool powers is every power, when possible, should be able to do 3 things, or should have 3 things. It should have some sort of mechanical benefit that you can just point at and say, this adds dice, or gives me rote quality, or gives me 8 again, or does something that I can point to my storyteller and says, this power gives me this thing.
Right.
It should have a narrative use, something that's useful or interesting narratively. So being able to fly is really cool. I mean, it's just you're always going to find uses for that. Being able to stick your hand through a wall is really cool. I mean, it's always going to have uses. There's a narrative use to that. And the third one is something that isn't as obvious but is also interesting, like a clever something you can do that's clever, like the bubble gum, the gum in the hair, or there is, for example, a cephalus power. So this is the psychics called Memory Thief. And what it does is it allows you to pluck a memory out of someone's mind and make it your own. And so you can steal, at very low levels, you can steal someone's daily commute, like just one of their days of commute. Something mundane, boring, repeated a million times. And that can be useful for trying to research someone.
Right.
So there's a mechanical effect to that. You get a benefit, a bonus on the research roll when you do that. But it's also has its usefulness as, now I know how they get to work in the morning. So I know the route. And if you think really hard about it, maybe if the storyteller decides that particular commute, something interesting happened, then now the storyteller can introduce a narrative complication within that power. And at a little higher level, it can be steal their memory of a recent scene. So great, you can basically, the cop goes and investigates something that's a police line, so you're not going to be able to go in to look at the location. But you steal the memory, so now you've got the memory of what they saw, and so you can investigate that way. But the other side of that, and the other useful thing is now you can erase witnesses' memories of things. So it has 2 uses immediately. One a little more obvious than the other. And so I think about that whenever I do cool powers, whichever the game is, about how much I can make it satisfy those three things.
Yeah, that's a quite good sign.
Mm-hmm.
I always love hearing like anyone's design philosophy because everyone's got their own ways they come at it.
Yeah,
and I like that 3-prong approach to powers. It's not just like, oh, it does one cool thing. It's like, no, it does at least 3 cool things.
Yeah,
but they're all slightly different, and here's why. And like, I think that the interesting narratively and having the like third aspect to it and everything is really nice because it makes the players feel very clever.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were definitely times, when we were doing the playtest where like one of the powers would seem the most obvious. We'd be like, okay, well, obviously do that. But also that's like a chain reaction, or, oh, hey, I can do this thing with my power. Like I had the, like, I've said the like teleport, and I could make really mildly useless clones of myself, but they would distract people. And so when we were going to like this final fight on the helipad, I made a bunch of clones of myself just to wander out and be weird and distract the guards that were out there, because suddenly these 5 identical women just walked out. And they're like, what's happening? And then I teleported into the helicopter so I could take out the helicopter pilot. And that was cool. Like, that was a fun thing to do. But, you feel very clever when you're like, oh, I've got these powers and I can use them this way and this way. And it'll be fun and interesting. And you just like feel smart.
Yep. And I know that then combining them is a lot of fun. Like, Incredibles did a really good job of showing like the interplay of powers and making them more useful together.
I love The Incredibles.
I loved that movie because that specifically you don't see very often, or at least didn't see very often in superhero play previously. And so like from one of my playtests, it was the character who could like shine like a giant spotlight and blind everyone nearby, and the character who had the ability to filter his senses so that overwhelming sensory input wouldn't blind him. So she went in there, blinded all the guards, and he went in there and just started taking a gun to him because he wasn't affected. But yeah, just all sorts of little fun things. I also enjoyed playing with the clades, which are the various. They're not while how you were remade often influences your clade. It is not a determiner. It's how you respond determines your clade.
Okay.
What powers it gives you. Not really the powers, but what. There are other traits or adaptations, which are sort of minor effects, relatively minor effects that are specific to clade. But there are some clade variations. So there are some variations that are more prone to being one clade versus the others. And so I'm thinking about about sort of the flavor of the clade from that perspective. Now you can reskin any variation. If you have the Predator's Cunning, which is a chimeric variation that lets it, the trope of you're hunting this predator and it somehow just intuitively knows how to stand between you and cover all the time.
Right.
And so you can never get a clear shot, and it always knows when you're trying to set a trap. And it's like Ghost in the Darkness. It's uncanny how good it is at avoiding you. And as a chimeric, that's a very fitting, because they're all about the balance between being two different things and being a creature of both worlds. But you can also do that as a luck effect under a coactive. If you're like entangled with fate in some way, you just by chance are always in those situations, or always seem to just disappear whenever someone's tailing you. Or you can do a cephalist, the psychic, and it's actually like you literally know where your enemy is going to be standing, so you can get in a position where you're not standing in the place. You kind of get little warnings. So you can reskin anything. But there's some effects that are a little bit more clade specific in a way, or like seem to fit the clade really well. For example, the mutants, which are also known as the grotesques, is really about like your body it's really body focused. Like a chimeric, you can be, sure, you're maybe half cat, half human. It may not manifest physically, but that's the thing. But for chimeric, it's about the balance between those two, being a creature of two worlds, of two, not literal worlds, but two species. With the mutant, it's about being something biological but other. So, for example, one of the mutant variations is called Sacred Flesh. What it means is that there's a variation that you have. This is a secondary variation that's connected to this power, this variation, that you can pass along to someone else. But here's the catch: is it's a gland that secretes a weird substance. It's a substance that someone has to eat, or maybe rub it on their lips, or do something to consume it. And so
gross.
It's a very it is gross. And in some cases it could be like something like someone has to like eat your skin. Yeah, it is gross, but that's the mutant. They're always. I think I was even told my wife, I'm like, yeah, mutants kind of all of their clade variations are kind of gross. They're the matter eaters, and one of the matter eating items in there is cannibalism. It's inspired by the werewolf ability. You eat someone, it causes aggravated damage. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not very good at causing aggravated damage, but if they do, they can heal. That's gross. But there's no great social effect or contract that's been around for thousands of years that says eating people is bad, and here's why. Instead, it's you as a person are not a cannibal, but now you have a power that requires you to be a cannibal if you want to use it.
Right.
So they tend to be gross. The acid for blood, what's deadly ichor, that's mutant. That's mutant. It's kind of gross. So I always think about, what does this clade sort of embody? And mutant, I guess, kind of gross is part of it, but it's a physical change. With chimerics, it's the two worlds, the two species. With coactive, it's literally two worlds, and coactives are the ones that are the most likely to, as a person, they're the most likely to accidentally interact and crossover. Because, for example, there's a coactive ability called onomantic influence. Mm-hmm. And one of the mid-tier abilities is that when someone introduces themselves to you, you know their true name. You just know what their real name is. In a normal game, that's useful information. Gives you a benefit to research.
Right.
But if you encounter a mage with that power, they're going to want to end you. Yeah. So, and there's like another one. There's a couple of them that are like that, where it's like it lets you bump into crossover without really wanting to, really meaning to. And that's the coactive. Is they are a creature of two worlds, but literally either they could be like connected to the fairy, they could be connected to the spirit world, they could be connected to the astral realms. There's all sorts of things that they could interact with. There's one that allows them to interact with time, interestingly. So they are part of two different timelines. It's been really fun thinking about the clade variations and what they say about the clade.
Wow.
That's cool.
So yeah, it sounds like we're probably gonna have to do another follow-up episode to talk more about this. But in the meantime, if people wanted to find you on social media to talk to you about Deviant, where would they find you?
I'm on Twitter as 4 Moons Press. My website is 4moonspress.com. I haven't blogged in a while. I've been kind of busy with Deviant and other projects lately, but I do blog there once in a while. I also at least peek in at the forums regularly and see if there's anyone talking about Deviant, and I'll chime in once in a while on the Chronicles of Darkness forum. One day I'll have my own, or we'll have our own rather, the game, and I can haunt there more. Yes, but that's where I'm on the internet.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time and coming on the show, Eric.
Thank you.
And now back to the outro.
And we're back. Interview concluded.
What?
Indeed. Well, having not been there, but having listened to that, I can honestly say that Eric is one of the most enthusiastic developers we have. And I don't mean that in an at all derisive way. It's fantastic to hear someone who loves their games so much that they can wax so poetical.
I think it's one of the interesting things about talking to somebody who's been doing this for a long time versus a new developer. I even hear that sometimes when the three of us talk, and there are certain things that I get far more excited about than Eddy, even though Eddy is an excitable guy. And it's because he's been doing that thing for, 20 years. And I'm like, this is my first time I've ever worked on this kind of project. And, it's new and interesting and novel. And that's something that I've seen a lot when we get a newer dev for a project, or we ask somebody if they're interested in developing, and half the time they're like, what? Yes, yay, I'm excited, this is fun, I get to be in charge of it now, you know. Because most of the people that work on our stuff are fans of the stuff they work on.
Well, yeah, I guess it's pretty natural to develop a little bit of cynicism when it comes to your games. I mean, it's not desired, but yeah, speaking, I guess, for the three of us, when we've been looking at the same game for several months or years, it's quite easy. I just got cramp in my legs, that hurts.
Oh no.
So this is what happens when I was about to say something like I looked at Wraith for months and years. I suddenly get cramp in my leg. Hopefully it isn't some kind of blood clot that's now travelling up to my heart. Hopefully. We'll find out in, I would guess, about 15 seconds.
Please don't let this be the podcast on which Matthew Dawkins has an aneurysm live.
But think of how infamous this podcast would be. Actually, it would only be infamous if I was able to click the stop recording button before I expired. And I would do that for you. I would allow you to record my final moments and broadcast them in an interview with Eric Zawadski, of all things.
This went from being really upbeat to really morbid so quickly, which I think is, you know, pretty much how we all are. But yeah. Sitting here like, yeah, it's great when you're excited, and you're like, I'm going to die. Okay, Matthew.
Well, the 15 seconds have passed. I appear to have survived.
Yay!
Once again, I have evaded death. And yeah, on the subject of the interview, so I'll hold my hands up and say that I knew very little about Deviant before listening to this interview.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've had some exposure to it from my work on Contagion Chronicle, where Chris Allen and John Burke co-wrote the chapter that handles Deviant as, I guess, its primary protagonist-antagonist. It's Santiago in Chile, in fact. Mm-hmm. And the what little I had to see there was very exciting, and I had some Deviant for crossover notes from Dave Brookshaw to make sure things were adhering to the canon, and we've subsequently had Eric review that chapter as well, just to make sure there isn't anything too wild and wacky. But now that I've heard Eric speak about the game, I am truly excited to see what it looks like in its finished version.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy running that at some point, because I know that you've run, you know, a few Chronicles games, and that one really gives your players, as I said during the interview and as we talked about, it gives them so much, I don't know, leeway, openness to do kind of whatever they want with their character. Yeah. Which I think is really cool. Like, there's a lot more options on some level than there are with some of the other games. Not that the other games are restrictive, but that, you know, if you're going into Vampire the Requiem, you're going in to play a vampire, and that's kind of just a known thing for the most part. If you're, you know, going into Mage, you're probably playing a Mage. But if you're going into Deviant, yes, you are playing a Deviant, but what does that look like? You know, is that a giant Hulk nun monster? Is that somebody who has telepathy and can teleport short distances? You know, like there's so many different power sets in the game, so that you all have kind of the same meaning, the same thing you're going for, but you can be just so vastly different, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, there is a feel of manufacture a monster about this game, and I find that very interesting. I mean, there's definitely some connections between Deviant and Promethean, for example, and I don't see that as a bad thing at all. In fact, because my mind has very much been buried in the world of crossover with Contagion Chronicle, it does make me wonder how people will play Deviants and Prometheans in the same group and how they might relate to each other, whether one sees the other as an inferior cousin or something to be pined for. You know, the fact that Deviants have so much variety to them means that where some supernatural creatures may well look at their power sets and look at their assorted curses and think, well, at least I'm not that guy. the Deviants don't really have that benefit. You're going to have some that are, I guess, massively powerful, but at the same time massively debilitated as a result, whereas you've got others that are undoubtedly going to be more subtle than that. And
right.
Obviously we were talking about Riley in Buffy, and now from memory, I think that the character in Smallville's name was Adam Jensen or Alex Jensen, maybe. But again, that's guesswork. But
the
that
actor's
would make...
name is Jensen Ackles, so that's weird.
Oh, damn it! So no, it's not. That was me snapping my fingers in frustration. I don't know what his name is. I would look it up, but that would take me out of this podcast too much. It will remain a mystery until someone comments. Who did Jensen Ackles play in Smallville?
His name was Jason Teague.
Well, what a very uninspiring name.
I just looked it up on my phone.
I can't do that and talk.
Yeah, I really love how the whole time you're like, I can't look that up. I'm sitting here, like, literally Googling it. I'm like, it's fine, I'll look it up.
Maybe that's what I planned for you to do.
I do that all the time during podcasts. Like, if y'all ever hear me, kind of ramble for a second, I'm probably looking something up on my phone so I don't get it wrong.
I write entire books while Eddie's talking.
Oh, man. But yeah, so, so his character was, Jason Teague. And that has to do with Deviant somehow?
Oh, yes, yeah. My point being that if these two are sort of special forces injected with a serum, that word's familiar, the serum, was that present in Buffy? Either way, it's an infinitely more subtle form of Deviant than the raging Hulk beast that you could become.
Right.
And I really enjoy the fact that right from the offset you have that range of deviants presentable in the book.
I mean, if we're just going to keep talking Buffy season 4, you've also got, the kind of what was supposed to be the big bad guy from that season who was just not that impressive was Adam, the one who was stitched together from a bunch of different monsters.
Oh, yes.
Also, like, part cyborg. Like, he had kind of a deviant thing going on. And that's something else. Is like some deviants might not be able to really go among normal people without being disguised, And some of them might be able to hide their powers just fine, much like in the world of X-Men and stuff. So you can do so much with it. It's such a cool game.
That brings to mind Mr. X in the new Resident Evil 2 remake, which everyone's posting images of this particular tyrant
Yeah,
zombie.
I know nothing about Resident Evil 2 remake, really, aside from that character.
Yeah, well, I just love the idea that Umbrella, the evil pharmaceutical corporation, have dropped him into Raccoon City, and if I recall from the original Resident Evil 2, he is literally dropped in from a helicopter in a crate that just opens, and he's stood there. And for whatever reason, someone at Umbrella thinks, you know what this human and zombie destroyer needs? It's a trilby and a trench coat, because this will... There is literally no justification for it beyond mad science. As if he's being dropped in to a city that's completely overrun by zombies, they're not going to care what it's wearing. And if the Mr. X is dropped in to destroy human survivors, what human is going to look at Mr. X and think, oh, that guy's cool? He's about 2 foot taller than the average human and, about as wide as I am tall. And, but the trilby, fantastic disguise.
I mean, yeah. That's how you know. I always laugh. I mean, that reminds me of the Thing from Fantastic Four, where it's just the same thing. He'll like walk around town in like a big coat and a hat, as will occasionally, I think, Beast from X-Men. And in all those instances, I'm like, I think I'd notice. I just feel like I would notice.
Yeah, I suppose if it's good enough for Superman, if it's good enough for the original, it's good enough for Mr. X, Beast.
But Superman looks like a person.
He's not built like a person, though, is he? He is built like a superhuman, and I don't remember any point where Clark Kent justifies where I don't know, Perry White says, "Boy, Clark, you've been working out," and
He's a farm boy. It's natural. He grew up hauling hay. That's what they all think.
Yeah. Great Caesar's ghost, Ken. Anyway.
Rambly outro.
I've never seen triceps like that on a reporter before. I don't know why Perry White is admiring Clark Kent's triceps, but I would buy that issue.
Hey, I won't stop anybody.
No.
Makes him happy.
And on that note, Dixie, if anyone was to want to find you on social media, where would they look?
I don't know why they'd want to, but Dixie Cyanide, pretty much anywhere. Twitter, Onyx Path forums, various sundry discords that I hang out in for a lot of our games. I do want to say that the Lunars Kickstarter for Exalted, Lunars Fangs at the Gate, is still ongoing. And it's doing very well so far. So if anybody's interested in getting in on it, as always, if you pledge just $5 to start with, you can see the whole manuscript. So if you want to just see what we've done with Lunars for 3rd edition, awesome. I totally get that. And maybe it will encourage you to, bump up to get a PDF or something when it's released, because I've seen a bunch of the art and it is going to be beautiful.
Yep, I completely agree. Get in, but by all means, get in just to view the manuscript. We do not hold that against anyone. But yeah, don't forget to bump your pledge up before the conclusion of the Kickstarter. And you can find me on social media as the Gentleman Gamer, most places except for Twitter, where I am Clack Click Bang. And do subscribe to the Onyx Path YouTube channel, where I'm uploading many videos a week. This week, for instance, we have uploaded a Changeling the Lost actual play that takes us through the recent Jumpstart that was released for Changeling. So if you're looking for an entryway into Changeling the Lost, that's a decent video to watch, listen to. We also have another edition of Onyx Path News if you're interested in our new releases, and community content, among various other things. So much. We do so much with the Onyx Path YouTube channel. You would be a fool, damn it, not to subscribe. And on that note, thank you very much for listening. Many worlds, one Pathcast.
He is one of the co-developers for Demon Descent. He's done some work with us on Demon, some of the other anthologies.
You mean Deviant the Renegade?
Deviant the Renegade, right. Sorry.
Do you want to start over, Eddie?